Apple isn't the cheapest company. It isn't always the first to invent new technology. Yet millions of people eagerly buy every new iPhone. Why? The answer has very little to do with the phone itself. The real secret lies deep inside human psychology. To understand Apple's success, we have to travel back to 1976. Inside this small garage, two young men had an idea that would change the world forever. One was a brilliant engineer. The other was a visionary who believed technology should feel simple. Together, they built the first Apple computer. At first, almost nobody believed in them. But they refused to quit. That small garage would soon become one of the most valuable companies in history. But the journey was far from easy. Against all odds, the Apple I began attracting attention. It wasn't a huge success, but it proved one important thing: people believed in the idea. Then came the Apple II. The product that changed everything. Families, schools, and businesses started buying Apple computers faster than anyone expected. Apple was growing rapidly, and so were expectations. Steve Jobs wasn't satisfied with being good. He wanted Apple to build products people would fall in love with. He believed technology should be powerful, but also incredibly simple to use. This obsession with simplicity made Apple different from almost every competitor. But success brought a new problem: pressure. Inside Apple, disagreements began to grow between leaders. No one imagined that the man who co-founded Apple would soon be forced to leave his own company. In 1985, the unthinkable happened. Steve Jobs was forced out of Apple, the very company he had helped build from a garage. Imagine creating your dream, and then being told you no longer belong. For anyone else, this could have been the end. But Steve Jobs made a decision that changed history. Instead of giving up, he started over. He founded a new company called Next and continued building powerful computers. Around the same time, he bought a small animation studio that almost nobody believed in. That little studio would later become Pixar, creating some of the world's most loved animated films. Sometimes, what feels like the biggest failure becomes the beginning of your greatest success. And then, Apple made the one phone call that changed everything. By the mid-1990s, Apple was in serious trouble. Sales were falling, products were confusing, and the company was losing millions. Many experts believed Apple wouldn't survive much longer. Then, Apple made an unexpected decision. Steve Jobs was invited back. Most people expected him to save Apple by creating more products. Instead, he shocked everyone. Jobs eliminated nearly 70% of Apple's products. His philosophy was simple: focus on making a few products incredibly great, instead of making many average ones. That single decision changed the future of Apple forever. And soon, Apple introduced a colorful computer that would surprise the entire world. In 1998, Steve Jobs introduced the iMac. It wasn't just another computer, it looked unlike anything people had ever seen. People loved its beautiful design, and Apple was finally making money again. But Steve Jobs believed this was only the beginning. In 2001, Apple introduced a tiny music player that could hold 1,000 songs in your pocket. It was called the iPod, and it completely changed the music industry. Then, in 2007, came the moment that changed technology forever. The iPhone wasn't the first smartphone, but it was the first that felt truly simple. One tap. One screen. One beautiful experience. Millions of people wanted one, and the world would never be the same again. But Apple's greatest secret was never its products, it was the way people felt when they used them. Most people think Apple became successful because of better technology. But that's only part of the story. Apple didn't just sell products, it sold an experience. Every device worked together so smoothly that people didn't want to leave the Apple ecosystem. Steve Jobs believed simplicity wasn't about removing features, it was about removing confusion. That's why Apple products often feel easy to use, even for someone trying them for the first time. People don't remember every technical specification, they remember how a product makes them feel. That emotional connection became Apple's biggest competitive advantage. From a tiny garage to one of the world's most valuable companies, Apple's journey proves that great ideas win when they're executed with relentless focus. But understanding people matters the most. Maybe that's the real secret behind Apple. It never just built technology. It built products that people loved. What company should we uncover next?